Hello, and welcome to Havoc Wargaming, dedicated to bringing you the uncommon. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Ron, and today we're going to do a review of some MDF kits for 35mm wargaming in a modern environment. So let's get started. I'm a fan of Discourse Miniatures, and one of the things that she's managed to do is impress me about Batman the Miniature Game, a game I sort of have been avoiding in the past and I've recently invested quite a bit in. In adding to the buildings to build the terrain for that, I have picked up a couple of new MDF kits I'm going to show with you today. One of those is from TT Combat, who provides inexpensive MDF kits perfect for the game, and also a new manufacturer that I discovered on eBay, and this is Atomic Lasers Design, who has a large selection of, I don't know how to describe this without sounding insulting, of that sort of boring-ish modern architecture, whereas a lot of the other stuff is brownstone. These are those sort of just boxy looking storefronts and offices and things like that. So I bought a couple of these that I thought were actually a little more interesting, but still fit that genre, that I might be able to use for something like Batman the Miniature Game, or if you play Marvel Crisis Protocol, you could use it for that. I think they're actually made for The Walking Dead. I may also use them for my, I'm working on a 1970s American detective game. I may use them for that, though they're a little large for using with 28mm. I don't think it's impossible because they are shops. They are the kind of things that might be a little bigger than a normal structure, and the doors might be a little higher than a normal structure, but still they're not exactly well suited, I don't think, to 28mm. But that's enough of this talking. What I'm going to do is go ahead and take you to the gaming table. This first building here, this is the Coffee House by TT Combat. TT Combat is a manufacturer we've seen here before and that we've covered on this page before. I've got a couple figures here to give some idea for size. These are a little large. I mean, these are 28mm figures, and you'll see the buildings are a little bit big for that, but that's probably good because these buildings are most likely to be used for something like Marvel Crisis Protocol, or maybe the zombie game Walking Dead, or I've got them for Batman, and Batman, of course, is a 32mm game. So these are all, I think, designed around that concept. There was actually a choice of signs. There was this one here that I liked because of, I guess, nerd culture, Espresso Petroleum, but it could have easily been Cool Beans, which just showed a couple of coffee beans. There's a number of different things on the list here, too, that are available and provided. They're Espresso, well, the name again, open early, close late. And some of the things you could have expected to find within it. It does have nothing much on the sides except a little bit of detail, like where the bricks are showing there. But the back has quite a bit. It's a mixture of MDF and gray board, loading zone and a door. The vents are kind of cool and how those were done. This building does have a bit of an interior. It's mostly pretty simple, but it has a couple signs that go on in there. There's also a bunch of furniture. I haven't put it together, but there's a bunch of tables and chairs and some very two-dimensional coffee mugs. There's a coffee maker, too, that'll go up on that counter when I finish it. So this isn't quite, I mean, obviously none of these are even painted. The signs, too, these signs here, again, are for this particular shop, but there were signs for the Cool Beans version as well. Went together pretty well. You know, you're familiar with TT Combat. It's a pretty good-looking building. I think they're pretty clever in how they mix their gray board to their MDF to try to give it a more interesting look, and I think that'll be work well. These other three buildings here, we'll talk about each one of them individually, but these are all by Atomic Laser Designs. I found them on eBay, and they're regularly on eBay, but he also has a web page apparently. There's several versions of these, and there's a bunch of buildings I don't have. He does pawn shops and gas stations, and they're all very well priced. Again, you can get an idea maybe with these figures here that they do tend to be a little biggish. They'll work better with a 35mm figure. These are sold as being for Walking Dead, but again, I got them for Batman, and they would probably work for Marvel Crisis Protocol as well. The sign has a slight two-dimensional, I just heard the interior falling around, slight two-dimensional look to it. The sides are scribed like bricks, a little bit of detail there. The doors on these, you can see the one in the back, the doors on these move, they're all hinged. The roof comes off. Most of them, the sign's attached pretty cleverly. This one, not so much. So here's what the interior looks like. Again, the walls aren't actually finished, but there's a couple of comic book shelves. There's a counter, 3 different shelves. There's a table and some chairs in the middle, which I may set up to be for some gamers having played a game. So that one is Wolf Comics and Games. Then over here, there's a comic book store that TT Combat does too, but I decided I liked Wolf Comics. I like this look and the feel of it a little bit better than the TT Combat building. And I love the idea of having a comic book store on a comic book game table. Over here, Black Cat Tattoo. This is, I got this mostly because typically you're playing Batman in bad parts of town. This is very similar to what I mentioned before. It's a little smaller, perhaps. This is what I meant by clever signs. This sign has little hooks. I wish they had done that with the Wolf Combat one, because it means I can take my sign off and it's not going to break when I'm shipping or storaging it. You'll see the letters. The letters are raised MDF glued over the sign. The sign does have letters etched into it. So I could have chosen not to use the raised letters and just painted what was etched into it. Or I could have put a new sign and glued a new sign over that without any visible effect if I wanted to make it some other business. So I think that was clever. Again, doors operate. They're hinged. It has an interior, but pretty limited in its setup. No furniture, no counters. It's all right, I didn't get these for their interiors. Well, I say that. This one's kind of an exception. Actually, let's show it with the figures here first. This is the Urgent Care. This has not really been my intention to get originally, but I had a technical issue with eBay and ended up owing this guy hundreds of dollars. He helped me fix that, and I thought I kind of owed him. And this building, well, it attracted me because there's a bunch of Urgent Cares in town that look just like this one. So I think it's a pretty good look. Great game, obvious game for a zombie game, since you'd be looking at these places to find supplies. Many other games that could be useful as well. I mostly liked the way that the sign in the outside of it looked. Again, doors move. But this one has a bit more of an interior than the others. In fact, in some ways that interior is a bit of a problem because, as you can see, it's kind of small. In many games, you're going to have trouble actually using that interior, putting figures in there. I got excited when I saw the interior and thought I'd buy the hospital set from Mantic, but actually if I start putting medical equipment in there, I really can't put people in. But still, I do like the structure and the idea of it. Again, simple sides, not much on the side, a simple door in the back. These are all some pretty simple designs as far as MDF goes, but they were also very inexpensive. I mean, between $15 and $25 each prior to shipping. He did me a deal on buying multiple ones, so that was nice as well. Some of the models look like they may be a little more complicated than others, but they all went together very simple. But the only problem I really had, the doors hinge system works exactly the way the doors for Blacksite Studios work, except most of the Blacksite Studio doors I think are Grayport, I can't remember now. These are actually MDF. They fit in a little hole in the bottom, just like the Blacksite Studio ones, and then they fit into a little bar that you glue in here in the top. The difference is that the fit is better on the Blacksite Studio ones. In fact, the Blacksite Studio ones are a little too tight. It's sometimes very hard to get them in there. These ones are very loose. Sometimes there's not enough friction for they even hold them in place while the glue's drying. In fact, I don't usually like to use Gorilla Glue because it expands, but this might be a good product to use it on because of that expanding, to help lock it in place while the glue dried. But other than that, I think these buildings are really nice. I'm sorry they're not painted. I have every reason to suspect like they're going to paint up as simply as any other MDF building. Unlike some MDF buildings, these are kind of boring architecture, which I don't think will need a lot of surfacing to make them look any better. I will add some roofing details. They're all very shy on roofing details, particularly the atomic laser ones. At least there's a hatch design on the top of this one and some sculpture. But there's nothing on top of the atomic laser design ones. So I have a set of building details that I got from Multiverse that includes things like gas meters and air conditioning units and ductwork. And I'll add some of that to the roof to give them a little more flavor. One of the things that I learned back in my model railroading day is that you see buildings more from the top in this case wargaming than you see from the sides. So having interesting details is useful on the roofs to make them look a little better and more interesting. And also many of these things actually provide cover for any figures that may be roaming around on the roofs. So important gaming reason to think about that as well. I don't know if any of you have any of these buildings. These are somewhat, except maybe the TT Combat one. I think these atomic laser designs are probably a little less common. So I don't know how many of you will have them. But if you do have them, I would love to see you share your experiences and what you think of them on the list here, or maybe how you would use these games, what game you might use them for if you owned them. If you have any questions about them, go ahead and ask those in the comment section down below. If you have any ideas for further content you'd like to see us produce here on Cry Havoc Wargaming, we look in the comment section for that as well. As usual, if you've enjoyed this video and found it all useful, I hope that you'll go ahead and hit like. And if you'd like to continue to receive notifications for videos like this one, or others that may help you determine how to better spend your money or time in your tabletop wargaming hobby, then please hit subscribe and ring our notification bell. Till next time, cheers.